Hello, I'm Jack Rickard. This is Electric Vehicle Television. My compadre, we've been in some disarray this week. One of our employees got a better job offer. Brain has gone to Cleveland. Bill Berry, his mother-in-law, his wife Quintella's mother, passed away this past weekend. And they're up in Cleveland trying to go through the appropriate rituals with her sisters and relatives in Cleveland. I've been here in Cape, kind of playing with the medical profession, some interesting stuff. So we're not going to have a big show this week. One of the companies I'm kind of interested in has kind of reached startup status out in Sunnyvale, California. It's called Amprius. They have an R&D lab there in Sunnyvale, headed by Dr. Kang's son, but one of the principal investigators is a guy I followed for a year or so and mentioned to you all several times, Dr. Yi Kui, I think, is how you pronounce it. It's Y-I, and his last name C-U-I. And he operates out of Stanford and the Slack lab there in San Francisco. He's done some very interesting work encapsulating silicon on the anode side in graphite spheres and sulfur on the cathode side. Silicon has such a huge volumetric expansion that it's tough to get any cycle life out of it. You have to buffer it with something, embedded in something, or otherwise stabilize it. Sulfur tends to leak off some byproducts into the electrolytes. So you either have to go to a different electrolyte or somehow isolate that. But he's done some things we call egg yolk type experiments that are very promising as far as cycle life. Maybe not so as much for manufacturability. But they have come up with kind of a little product for cell phones with a silicon embedded anode, and they have raised $30 million of startup money, including from some of the most prestigious names in Silicon Valley, and including Eric Schmidt from Google, who's invested in them. They also this month have added, again, this is kind of a titular function, but they did add Dr. Stephen Chu, a Nobel laureate, to their board. He was the former Secretary of Energy during most of the Obama administration. He stepped down now. He's, in theory, joined Amprius. I'm not sure how active he'll be, but good name to have on the stationery. And so I'm hoping for good things out of Amprius. Tesla, of course, this week, big bump in their stock. They had announced last week they had sold 6,900 vehicles. This week, they're kind of in the news in China. One of the things that they were able to do was to get the use of their name, Tesla, in Chinese, had been trademarked by a businessman who was kind of what we used to call a domain name squatter, who'd taken the name and was trying to hold Tesla up. Tesla instead sued him, and they won in the court and can now use their name. They have priced the Tesla in China at 734,000 won, which is a slick $121,000 US. Now, they're really not digging the Chinese too badly. They're basically adding $3,600 to shipping and shipping it to China. From there, they have some import duties, about $19,000, and some value-added taxes, about $17,000, and that's how you get an $80,000 car up to $121,000 in China. Sort of vague references to their build-out. Here in the U.S., they have now reached 80 supercharge stations. They're adding them quite quickly at this point. As I said, this is probably one of the most key elements right now in the battle royale to get cars to electric drive, is the remaining limitation that you can't drive coast to coast, which Elon Musk is attacking with the supercharge station concept. As I have mentioned a number of times, this kind of puts us into a world of haves and has-nots. I don't really need to drive an electric car coast to coast. Whomsoever the perception of the body politic in our country is that electric cars, this is one thing that gasoline cars can do and electric cars can't do. And he's going to personally make a cross-country trip with his 5 children using the supercharger network. Obviously, he wants to get that up and running pretty well before he sets out to do it, because if he doesn't make it or has to call a flatbed, it's not like it won't be in the news. Him and his 5 kids on the flatbed. And so I would say it'll be working pretty well before he departs on that trip. Meanwhile, some Tesloids have announced a march on Washington. They're going to drive into Washington using supercharged networks from all over the East Coast anyway, I believe on February 15th. And so that's kind of the drill. Nissan never gives it up, but they are kind of interestingly acknowledging the role of people demonstrating their cars in getting people to buy their cars. They did sell a little over 22,600 Leafs in 2013 with a big price cut, and some of these guys are getting Leafs for as little as $69 a month on the lease. They now claim in a big battle royale to have sold their 100,000th Leaf worldwide to a guy in Hampshire, UK. He's a dentist named Dr. Brett Garner in Hampshire, UK. And he bought the 100,000th Leaf. I've got a little bit of a video here that I've stolen, and I think you'll see why. Let's talk about it after you see this.
I was prompted to buy a Nissan Leaf by a friend of mine who's been running one for 6 months, a year or so, and I was really impressed with how much he was enjoying driving the car, but also how much money he was saving. My wife wasn't completely convinced by being able to run one of these on a daily basis. Fine to and from work, but what about if you want to go and visit someone slightly farther away or whatever? And she happened to be doing a journey up to North Wales from where we live near Winchester, and she asked if she could borrow the Nissan Leaf. They said yes, absolutely. 500 miles later, and she didn't want to give it back.
I found these time slots actually stopping to charge the car actually meant that when I reached North Wales, I've done that journey a number of times, and you arrive and you are tired, you are exhausted, you've done a lot of concentrating, a lot of miles on motorways. And when I got there, I felt as if I'd done a 10-minute journey.
She'd fallen in love with it, so my job was then to go and buy one.
We've had Leaf here for a couple of years now, and it's started to build more and more momentum, but to actually have the 100,000th Leaf globally in Winchester is fantastic for us. The 2p piece and the 2-cent pieces highlight the cost effectiveness of the vehicle, showing that represents a mile or a kilometre in usage of the vehicle, with the exception of this one, which probably adds half a tonne to the weight. It looks like a real labour of love for someone to have spent all that time sticking those coins on.
It's exciting. It's great to be part of some new technology that's taking over the world, because it should be. It's great to be part of something that isn't chucking lots of carbon dioxide out every time you're driving everywhere. And it's great to be able to save some money and drive a new car at the same time.
Brett's always the first one to sort of adopt new gadgets, whether it be in work or at home. And so when he came home and said, "I found a new car for you," I was a bit sceptical. And then I drove it, and it was amazing.
It's great that many people are prepared to buy something that is going to make the world a better place ultimately. The less dependent we can be on fossil fuels, the better I think the world will become. And to be part of that growing number is great.
I can't wait to get in it. We've missed it a lot, and drive it and take it home to the kids.
And then we're going to have the arguments about who gets to drive it.
Be me.
No.
So congratulations, Dr. Garner, on the acquisition of your new electric car, and welcome to our world. Did you, however, notice in the background kind of an orange-colored leaf? These Nissan guys are so heroically, clumsily inept at marketing and public relations. It's almost unbelievable. They have taken a Nissan Leaf, and to celebrate the sale of the 100,000th car, and to point out that it really only takes about 2 cents a mile to drive it, they have covered a Nissan Leaf car with 50,000 2-pence coins from the United Kingdom and 50,000 cent in euro cents coins from Europe. That adds about 1,100 pounds to the Nissan Leaf, making it almost undrivable. This reminds me of WKRP in Cincinnati's Thanksgiving Day promotion, where they dropped turkeys out of helicopters on the awaiting crowd in the mall below. And as Mr. Carlson noted, "As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly." And they bombed the parking lot with turkey bodies, splattering turkey stuff all over the crowd. This is what a Nissan Leaf with 2-pence coins on it looks like to me. 1,100 pounds of pennies on an electric car. Now that shows you know what you're doing in alternative energy. Speaking of knowing what you're doing, you have to see Yehu Garcia. He's actually going to pull off this flashlight battery Samba bus. Let's take a look.
This week on the Electric Samba Bus project, we are back from our trip to Arizona to once again play with batteries. This year's trip to the Buses by the Bridge show in Lake Havasu proved to be as fun as any. Full of adventure and full of mechanical drama. A couple of buses in our group suffer fatal engine problems. One got repaired there at the show, the other got towed back home. But that is all part of the fun of these shows. This one in particular turned out to be one of the biggest, with over 400 buses showing up. We camped out, we ate lots of food, drank lots of beer, and had lots of fun. And eventually, we had to come back home. Back to reality. In my case, back to more fun, as my beloved batteries were waiting for me for more testing and more assembling. So the process on the battery modules is slow but constant. And this week, 2 important things happened. I finished assembling the first module, and I got delivery of more 18650 modular clips. On the finished module, I finished soldering both the anode and the cathode side. I purchased 1/2-inch wide, 3/16-inch thick strips of copper to serve as the main module bus bars between adjacent modules. It was a pain to solder such a large piece of copper at first, but once I broke out the torch, it was a piece of cake. I will use 4 smaller cables to interconnect modules instead of one large one like the current prismatic setup. For that, I drilled and tapped 1/4-20 threads right on the bus bar. The other thing I managed this week was to assemble another 10 modules as the plastic clips arrived from China. Assembling them is a bit of a pain as it takes some time, and by the end, your fingertips are sore. But they are pretty sturdy and the easiest way to assemble 18650 cells. So that's it for this week, kind of a short update. Stay tuned for next week. Hopefully we can have a bit more of exciting test of my first module driving the Samba. So thank you for watching this video. Make sure to catch next week's episode for more electric Samba adventures. Next week, bye. We almost lost our wheel right here.
He's certainly going at it in a workmanlike fashion. I start to think he's going to pull this off, drive his Samba bus on essentially flashlight batteries. We have our European correspondent, Anna Kluppenberg, who's got all kinds of good things going on with his 818 conversion, his boats. But he took a trip to Bath, England, to Hob and Knob with Kevin Sharp over some electric vehicle support equipment, EVSE. I'm not sure I quite understand all about it, but it looks pretty interesting. It, of course, features the Minikies plug, which is popular in Europe and unusable here, which is why some of the issues are more between Anna and Kevin and a little bit lost on me. Let's take a look.
Well, hey, EVTV, as we told you last week, and you probably got a little postcard segment update on the in-between week that you missed us, the New Electric team came over to the UK and visit Kevin Sharp of Zero Carbon World, and we have now found out, Main Pine Incorporated. We brought him a large supply of EVTV goodies, including 57 kilowatt hours of CA180Fi cells, a big Siemens motor and an E-gear drive, and he has already told us that he's looking for some more parts to finish the kit that he's going to be putting into yet another, but a very special Volkswagen split-screen bus.
Absolutely.
So hey Kevin, so great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
And thanks for having us here, and we've been taking us all through the countryside and meeting wonderful EV people. We've been talking about some business stuff that we'll get to in just a second. But tell us first how you found us and found the idea of getting these batteries into what project exactly?
Sure. Well, this is, as you can see, all the battery cells that we're going to be putting into our 1963 split-screen VW camper, which is a project I've actually been thinking about for about 5 years. But we're actually at the point now, excuse me, we're actually at the point now where we have a need to develop a test bed for a lot of the technology that we're developing. We're doing some things related to charging and some things related to GevCo, for instance. So there's a lot of technology we need to test, and this is really the platform we wanted to do it. We're also involved in a round the world trip in 2016, so which will be really good. There are now currently 6 cars signed up for that, so we're hoping very much that the VW will be one of those that will travel around there. So that's 80 days around the world, so that will be a great, really exciting project.
Super good. And how did you manage to luck into the EVTV quality stuff? Did you?
Well, I think, online, of course. Historically, I've been watching EVTV, I guess, for 2 or 3 years. You know, obviously really enjoyed the work that you're doing with them as well.
Great, thanks.
And I mean, I'd always planned to do my own EV, just never had the time. But have a little more time now,
Sure.
and so we'll actually, get down and get building, which will be great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And since we're component guys, and you've hinted at the word charger, but that does cover a multitude of sins, do you have a little sneak peek at what kind of power levels you're looking at that charger, sir?
Yeah, well, certainly, I've driven 50,000 miles in a Tesla all over Europe, so I have a good sense of what we need, certainly within Europe, and I have this sort of idea that basically we should be able to charge from anything, absolutely anything that we find. So in Europe we have quite a lot of 43 kilowatt AC, and for this particular project we're interested in actually being able to use 2 of those at the same time. So up to 86 kilowatts AC, 100 to 150 kilowatts DC as well. So part of the sort of test we're doing with this product, we're doing direct from solar charging, for instance, so DC charging direct from solar. We also want to be able to use this battery pack for powering, potentially the house when it's not being used for the vehicle. So there's a lot of experimental work going on, but
almost more power management unit than strictly charger as we know it.
Yeah, absolutely, and all the way down to down to 6 amps, which is 1 kilowatt off of solar on the house, for instance.
Instead of constantly switching off because the voltage drop and you don't get your trickle level of charge.
Absolutely. So we want to be able to, that whole range, we want to be encompassed. And obviously at an aggressive price point, where although this will be very much a development project, so, price for us is less important at this point.
Sure.
But longer term, we might well turn it into a product, and if we do, then obviously we want to do that at an aggressive price point.
Excellent. Now, we all know that in order to charge, one needs having a good battery, taking the charge, a good charger, providing the source, but we also need to be able to connect to that grid system. Now, this is actually how we found Zero Carbon World, and now we know Main Pine behind it, that they actually have really great hardware at very aggressive price points with a very high quality standard to be able to install in your home, or even take it with you mobile on the go, and then get a good 22 kilowatt hour source and be able to communicate with your vehicle, whether it be a OEM Tesla Model S that, in Europe all over we have these red CE plugs, 3-phase 32 amp. Now a Model S owner will get a red 16 3-phase plug with their car and a little unit that goes in between, because those you're allowed to hot plug. But the 32 amp 3-phase, you're not allowed to hot plug, because you would have so much corrosion or damage effects on the terminals that theoretically over time current carrying capacity would go down, heat would go up, fires could happen.
Sure.
So now old Tesla Model S owners know that, for instance, just in Amsterdam alone, there's over 10,000 plugs, and there's only 3 22 kilowatt hour chargers.
Yeah.
Now we got to do something about this,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So that's why we figured that if we would come over here and be able to talk and get some hands-on, we've got a unit at the shop that we'll be building this next week or so, putting online and making sure Model S's will line up for charge at our little station. Kevin was great and did a little rundown of his components as they are now. So we'll switch to that so you can see what he's got for charging hardware.
Yeah. So this is just a typical example of the sort of products we've done. Historically, this is a branded product for Zero Carbon World. This actually has all of our technology within it, including the EPC, the protocol controller. And this is a 7 kilowatt Type 1 or J1772 with a tethered lead. This is also available with the Type 2 tethered leads, including a 22 kilowatt 32 amp version, which is huge in Europe. So all of the lovely Model S's, of course, are all charging at 20 kilowatts, so they need this sort of solution. Also, the same basic hardware is used in the socketed version. So again, there's a 7 kilowatt and 22 kilowatt version available. So that this is one of the exciting new products that we'll be producing under the Main Pine brand as we go forward. Within that unit is the Mainpine EPC, and the EPC is basically an EVSE protocol controller. And this actually provides all the control functionality for the EVSE. Although many people like to make charging stations sound very complicated, they're actually extremely simple. Basically a contactor, an RCBO, and a protocol controller. And the EPC comes again in various flavors, different functionality, whether it's a tethered unit or a SOXY unit, all the way up to 80 amps, and also all down as far as 6 amps. So there's actually a solar mode where you can control this depending on how much solar you're making. So that's a really, something I use all the time. It's a fantastic feature. We also do a whole range of sort of kits of parts. This is something that the user base has come to us and asked for. So basically a very sort of rugged, small charging station, and we supply a whole kit, which is the case, RCBOs and contactors. We actually use German manufactured RCBOs. We do that purposefully in terms of quality. It's a big issue for us. So we want to sell this stuff and then only hear good things. So we focus on quality control. It's a really important part of this. And of course, we also have the cable types. So we have charging station to car cables, 32 amps, single phase, 3 phase, type 1, type 2. And we also sell for the kit, people who are buying the kits, the cables themselves. So this is a typical type 2 cable, which comes in with a free end that people then terminate within their charging station. And of course J1772 or type 1. So a whole range of products. We have various other products that are coming as well, but this just gives you a flavour of the sort of thing that we've been talking about.
This Q1 2014 stuff. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of this technology, I think it's important to say, has been deployed. There are over 3,000 of the EPCs in use today. Zero Carbon World has donated over 500 charging stations. All of those have this EPC technology. So, this is established, known working technology. And as a driver myself, it's incredibly important that charging stations work and always work. So, all of the technology that we develop has that ethos in it. It's really important. With New Electric, all the new stuff that we're doing together, many of these products and many more will be available to all the European customers who want these high quality, aggressively priced products.
Fantastic. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Good job.
So that's some really cool stuff, and as Kevin is saying right yeah, live studio audience. So as Kevin was saying there, the stuff is now known and loved under the Zero Carbon World brand, a charity started by Kevin Sharp that has donated over 500 charge stations here through the UK. But Kevin, could you talk a little bit about how Zero Carbon World has done what you wanted to do and how you're going to be coming out with these products for a larger group of audience?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, our ambition was to donate 500 charging stations, and we've done that across the UK into primarily what we might call leisure type locations, hotels, bed and breakfasts, national trusts, parks, those sorts of things. And we really wanted to show those locations how easy it was to actually install charging. So it's an educational process. And as we say, we have 500 locations. We focus very much on very rugged and reliable because, so therefore no RFID access. We always expect these to be working. You turn up, you plug in, you charge, you go and do something else. And power levels from 7 kilowatts to 22 kilowatts, which means basically a really good match for whatever you're doing. An overnight charge if you're at a hotel, or if you're doing an activity, let's say you're quad biking, for instance. We have some quad bike locations. You go there for a morning and an afternoon, well, at 22 kilowatts, you can get your perfect, solution for recharging.
Barbecue lunch and you're out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really low cost but very, very rugged solution. So we donated the 500, which is what we set out to do. We also started an online shop to make high quality products available to end users. There was, we felt certainly in Europe, there was a lot of high pricing, a lot of manufacturers holding pricing very high, which we felt was actually detrimental for a lot of drivers. We want drivers to adopt en masse, and part of that is driving down prices. So we launched a shop with lots of product, cables and charging stations. The challenge has been that's got incredibly successful. We're selling all over Europe. We have a lot of inquiries from the US, and it's a challenge for a charity. So what we've taken the decision to do is to close the shop for the charity so that it can focus on its donation and its environmental work. And then for Mainpine, which is a company that developed all these products, to launch all of these products through a network of resellers such as yourselves. So what that means is people will be able to buy the same quality products, but worldwide, which is fantastic for all of us.
And just to make sure that Kevin's walking the walk and not just talking the talk, we got a tour of the production facilities, and we'll show you a little bit of that as we go on now.
And the quality of tests, as Nick was saying earlier, every single product we've ever built has a unique serial number. We can go back right to, as I was saying, in the first instance to when it was built, and then actually all the way back through the complete component history. So we've been able to identify, say, a component failing over time, and you can then actually look at which batch were built with that component. So you can then actually go out to customers and before there's a problem, actually do something about that sort of thing.
Most of our customers don't necessarily need that quite the level that our manufacturer control software offers, except for our aerospace customers. We have a customer called Ultra Electronics, who are aerospace, and they will need traceability back to raw material, because it's aerospace stuff that takes a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
How many units have been produced and are out in the world, roughly?
I think Zerocom World's donated 520, something of that.
Yeah,
520 of this new generation. We're in early production, so I don't know how many. Do you know roughly how many you've built?
I think it's under 50.
Well, it's under 50.
Also, the components, the Mainpine EPCs, they're over 1,000 in Europe.
Yeah, they're in fact, yes, well over 1,000. So in total, what's important, I guess, to understand is that all of the components are in this generation were in the previous generation. So we've been using the same technology all the way through. So it's been out there a long time. And EPC is used by a number of OEMs today. That's the core product that's in their charging station.
That's a car in a box?
Yes.
Yeah, basically. Exactly.
Yeah. Simulating it.
Yeah, we got fed up with driving the car. Test run.
So basically this will run through a set of standard tests. Switch the contactor on here. So in effect that's told it I'm a car, I'd like to charge, and they've sort of handshaken and then it went into charging, and now it's checking that it can disconnect the charging correctly.
So what it's doing is going through the whole protocol, but it's actually measuring things like pulse widths and voltage levels. So it's an incredibly accurate against the standards.
The pick and place machines which we use, which we got 4. So they're fed, and then the head, there's a XY head that flies up and down. So this is a printing machine. What it does is you can see just about, and there's an image of the pads of the components that go on the board, and you run a squeegee across there, and it rolls solder paste over the apertures and leaves a print on the board of solder paste. So now we're ready to place the components, and the tackiness of the solder paste holds the components in place, and then when you finish putting all the components on, i.e. building the board, you then put the board through what's called a reflow oven. Yours is now fully surface mount, didn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
We got there. yeah.
But funny that even though, despite Kevin's board, most boards have got some form of leaded component on it, typically connectors. And so this side is where we do all the leaded build. The build of components they've got legs that go through boards in effect.
Right.
To get a professional approach to a leaded build, we've got wave solder machines. There's a big vat of solder.
Really good.
That's molten.
That's hot.
They're very hot. APC 610, which is an acceptable, as it says on there, basically a validation standard. It doesn't tell you how you're going to do it, but it says when you've done it, it should look like this.
So there you have it, guys. I mean, we've seen the goods. They're rebranding, and they're making sure the goods are going to be there in large quantities. They definitely have their quality of production down. So we're very excited going forward that on a very short term, we'll be able to deliver to European customers at, say, the 3-phase 22 kilowatt hour levels that we so desperately need here. And then going forward, as we all become good friends, we hope to do lots of business and help change the world for the better.
Absolutely. That'd be
Can I say thank you so much for this
Cheers.
week? We've had an absolute great time, met a lot of interesting people, and are really excited about the future.
Fantastic. Yeah, we've really enjoyed your visit here, so it's been fantastic. So thanks for coming.
Please. You heard it here on EVTV. Take care, guys.
Making electric boats isn't just making boats cleaner, it's making boats better. Being out in an electric boat means you can enjoy the environment you're in. You are so much more immersed in the sound and the experience of the aquatic life, of the water, of the wind, than you would otherwise be. And it really gives you a new level of understanding and enjoyment of that generally beautiful nature area you've gone into to enjoy yourself. What an electric motor does is that it gives you all this power in a vibrationless, soundless way. A well-thought-out, well-designed system has 100% of the torque available all the time. You don't have to build up to it, you have it. So when you pump the throttle, you are out there and your whole shot is amazing. It takes your center of gravity right out from under you, and it gives people that what they call the EV grin. You just start laughing, you can't help it. You're so conditioned to think that you first need vibration, then need noise, and then you start going somewhere. And in this case, your center of gravity just shoots right out from under you. And it's a wonderful feeling. You can still talk to each other. You're hearing the sound of the water and the wind and the waves instead of just hearing engine noise and vibrations. And it gives you really a chance to be in tune with that nature that you're actually out there to enjoy. Plus, not having to visit the pump is actually a great thing. Your battery will eat electricity from any source that you provide. I mean, who loves sitting around on your knees with a jerry can? We have better control over the boat. We have a better experience while we're out driving. Plus, we also have the knowledge that we're part of new technology. It is just way cool. Our mission is to make beautiful, fast, and fun electric boats. There's nothing more fun than taking these new technological developments and putting them into classic designs and having people shoot away with a big smile and an EV grin.
So that's Anna Kluppenberg and Kevin Sharp. They do purportedly have a J1772 version, higher current, heavy capable, and are talking about a 50 kilowatt charging unit that can work from anything. Solar, DC, batteries, 3-phase power. Will be very interesting to follow the development of that. And we may carry their J1772. I've kind of avoided the EVSE because it's gotten to be so inexpensive at the hardware store. You can get a GE Watt station, which is what I like to use, for $800 or $900 now. But we may carry something at some point along the lines. I did get in a new toy this week. It is actually, I think, going to be kind of an interesting thing. We have traditionally used the Kilovac Tyco kilowatt contactors. The Gigavac has done a kind of a competing device, and we started carrying those. I've actually got one that you can use one signal to set and another signal to reset. No one's bought any of them, but I thought it was interesting. We started carrying them. They have a new one, the GX110, just released. This is kind of a monster. It will first carry 1,000 amps continuously through this contactor. It'll carry 5,000 amps for up to 10 seconds. It's good for up to 800 volts, and it has built-in coil suppression. In other words, you don't need a coil suppression diode on the coils of this, and in fact, they ask you not to use one. It's, let's see, it takes, I've been playing with JevQ and their MOSFET outputs. I keep telling them it'll do about 7 amps for briefly, and then about 1.7. For example, this monster contactor will take about, let me see if I can find it here, 5.1 amps at 12 volts is the pickup current for up to 250 milliseconds. Then it drops to 1.28 amps. And so we've matched on the JevQ MOSFET outputs, really kind of picturing driving one of these type contactors. Great isolation, great current. Let's see. Cycles. If you did let's take a 450 volt system, 300 amps, you could break that about 5,000 times. And so this is truly a monster. What I don't like about it, it's got one of those kind of plugs, which I never can find the plugs. That's the bad news. The good news is, mystically, they ship it with 3 of them. They're 3 identical connectors, just, I guess, if you lose some, but it comes in a box with 3. And so here's these connectors. Maybe we ordered 3 of them and they put all the connectors in one of the boxes. I'm not sure. Anyway, it comes with the plug that matches the connector. But then if you take it out and leave this in a car, you have to chase this down again. But we can get more of these. We know what they are. I've got 158 pumps from the Azure Dynamics auction. And I've never even put them up on the store because they have one of these kind of recessed connectors, and I've never found the mating plug. If anybody knows what the plug is that works with the Azure Dynamics pump, I would appreciate a part number, manufacturer, something. Anyway, this kind of becomes our new biggest contactor. It's got 2 great big half-inch bolts on each side and a plate, and that helps it dissipate heat and carry a large current load. And then apparently it's got a couple of coils in here to affect the function. Of course, it's a normally open relay, and you have to apply 12 volts to it to close it, and that's very common with our contactors. But this can switch as much current and voltage as anything we've had in the place at 1,000 amps and 800 volts. It's also about as pricey as anything. We're going to probably put that in the store at about $850 for one of these contactors. Do you need it? Well, I mean, it's for some, it's not a matter of needing it, it's a matter of wanting it. But for others, I would say this is for your heavier systems with a Soliton that does 1,000 amps. You don't need a 1,000 amp contactor if you don't do 1,000 amps. And again, you don't really need one then. As this one will do 5,000 amps briefly and 1,000 amps continuously. The little Tycos are rated for 300 or 500 amps. That's continuous, and you can do 1,000 or 1,500 amps on those for a few seconds pretty well. But if you want the biggest, baddest contactor on the block, I would say the Gigavac GX110 has claimed that position, and we're going to carry it for those who think they need it. And it certainly looks like a quality unit, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, that's about it. We're going to do a short show this week. Next week we're expecting in lots of stuff. Brian will be back, and hopefully we'll have more extensive stuff to talk about then. But that's it for this week, and stay with us.